When you're a member of the royal family, going into the family business comes with a life of prestige and privilege. But does it always bring great wealth? After training for the position for more than 70 years, King Charles III has finally acceded to the throne. Now let's find out how much the new monarch is really worth. King Charles was the longest-serving heir apparent in British history. At the age of 73, is the oldest person to assume the British throne. Well, after training for the position for more than 70 years, King Charles III inherited large swaths of land, regal estates, rare jewels, paintings, and other personal property, some going back centuries, from his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. He also now oversees the late monarch's $42 billion portfolio of assets held in trust for the kingdom, including billions in investments, and further palaces, glittering jewels, and priceless art that he will never actually own. Now you may ask, why is the royal wealth referred to as the firm? Everyone gained interest in the long-standing term when in an old interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Markle referred to the royal family by a common nickname, the firm, an unofficial nickname that dates back to the time of Queen Elizabeth II's father, King George VI. The firm is an informal title for the British royal family and its associated institutions, including the courtiers, staff, and working royals that keep the business of the monarchy functioning. It reportedly stems from King George's statement that he and the rest of the royals were not a family, we're a firm, a concept first introduced in the mid-20th century. That framing has stuck. To be clear, this is not King Charles's personal money, but according to Forbes, the firm holds around $28 billion in assets. As we noted while reporting on the late Queen's net worth, that includes the Crown Estate worth $19.5 billion, Buckingham Palace worth $4.9 billion, Kensington Palace worth $630 million, the Duchy of Cornwall worth $1.3 billion, the Duchy of Lancaster worth $748 million, and lastly the Crown Estate Scotland worth $592 million. These assets are used by King Charles in his capacity as monarch, but he can't sell them off because they belong to the crown itself and will be passed down to Prince William once he becomes king, who will pass them to Prince George, and further. How does the firm make money? In 2 words, real estate. The Queen, or actually King Charles, is the proprietor of the Crown Estate, real estate holdings across the UK that bring in sizable sums in annual appreciation and industry, primarily farming. He is not the private owner of these estates, but holds them in right of the crown as hereditary possessions. He then returns the profits to the royal treasury. Now the royals also get their cut from this, because the single most valuable asset held by King Charles is the Crown Estate, a sprawling real estate portfolio with $17.5 billion in net assets. Those properties include Regent Street, London's prime shopping destination, as well as Ascot Racecourse and virtually the entire seabed of the UK. All of the Crown Estate's net profit, $361 million in the fiscal year 2022, goes to the British Treasury, but the royal family also gets a cut. They receive an allowance from the Treasury known as the Sovereign Grant, equal to 25% of the net profit for the financial year 2 years earlier. In 2022, the Sovereign Grant amounted to $99.6 million, based on the Crown Estate's net profit in the 2019-20 financial year. The remainder after the Sovereign Grant goes straight to the government. The family's income was further supplemented by personal funds from the Queen's private estate, the Duchy of Lancaster, and King Charles's estate as Prince, the Duchy of Cornwall, as well as the Royal Collection of Art. The overall value of the Royal Collection, which includes works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Caravaggio, and Leonardo da Vinci, is unquestionably much higher. According to a 2017 report by Brand Finance, a UK-based brand valuation firm, the Royal Collection, including the crown jewels, is estimated to be worth $12.7 billion. What does the firm spend money on? The royal family's expenditures include travel, events that they host for the organizations they patronize, events they host for the preservation of tradition, staff salaries, and upkeep for their extensive real estate holdings. The total expenditure in 2020 was £69.4 million out of the Sovereign Grant, with £21.2 million going toward renovations to Buckingham Palace. The most expensive trip taken by the royals recently, for instance, was Prince William and Kate's 9-day visit to Belize, Jamaica, and the Bahamas in March, which cost roughly $260,000, including planning before the visit. The King's personal assets. As the new king, Charles inherits the Queen's personal assets, which Forbes estimates at $500 million. That includes Balmoral and Sandringham, the Royal Philatelic Collection, personal investments, horses, jewelry, and artworks from the Queen in 2002. The prized painting in that collection is said to be Claude Monet's study of rocks. Cruise, reportedly worth as much as $17.3 million. And assuming Charles's late father, Prince Philip, had a smart estate tax attorney, the Duke of Edinburgh would have endowed his own art collection, estimated at $2.3 million by the late royal commentator and journalist David McClure, to the Queen upon his death in April 2021 to avoid paying inheritance tax. If he did, those assets also likely passed on tax-free to Charles. In his 64 years as Prince of Wales, Charles also learned how to build his own outrageous fortune. He largely depended on income from the Duchy of Cornwall, which expanded under his tenure to $1.2 billion in net assets, including nearly $400 million in commercial properties and more than 52,000 hectares of land, or about a third the size of Greater London. Between 2011 and 2022, the Duchy's net assets grew by 51%. The profits from those assets provided Charles with enough income to be independent of the sovereign grant. In the fiscal year ending March 31, 2022, the then Prince of Wales earned some $26.6 million, pre-tax, from the Duchy of Cornwall, compared to $1.2 million from the sovereign grant. That valuable asset is now in the hands of Prince William, who succeeded his father as the Prince of Wales. With Cornwall, William will no longer have to ask his father for a cut of his income anymore. Prince Harry, on the other hand, is forging ahead with his own business ventures along with his wife, Meghan Markle. In December 2020, the couple signed a 3-year podcasting deal with Spotify that could be worth between $15 million and $18 million. The King's car collection. The late Queen was known to get behind the wheel often, and now all her luxury cars belong to King Charles. First up, let's have the King's favorite car. The King's vehicle of choice for his London debut was his mother's Rolls-Royce Phantom 6, which was presented to her for her Silver Jubilee in 1977. While the car is not for sale, a similar model from 1976 can be purchased for $225,000. The Queen has had a long-standing tryst with Land Rover. Nothing would quite match up to the Series I's ability to traverse the breadth of the Scottish moors neighboring Balmoral Castle. The 1953 Land Rover Series I is worth around $240,800. Next up is the 2009 Jaguar X-Type Sportwagon V6 Sovereign. This one, packing a V6, was fitted with a dog grille behind the rear seats for the world's most famous pack of corgis, and was a car the Queen drove to and from the church even when she was 91 years old. The most superior car in the collection is the Rolls-Royce Phantom 4 State Landaulette, worth somewhere between $1.3 million to $2.6 million. Less than 20 versions of the Phantom 4 were made, with Rolls only supplying them to its most elite clientele. Naturally, the Queen had 2 of them. She has since gone on to have a Phantom V and a Phantom 6, although the Phantom 6 remains a royal favorite, given that it carried Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to their wedding. Other cars in the collection include a Jaguar Daimler V8 Super LWB worth around $45,000 and a custom Range Rover which is worth around $180,000 to $200,000. King Charles III net worth. Charles had a net worth of $100 million before ascending to the throne as king. So what is the new monarch's total net worth now? Somewhere between $500 to $600 million. Another interesting fact is that King Charles won't really have to pay taxes. According to Fortune, much of King Charles's newly inherited wealth will be tax-free thanks to a wild British law that exempts the monarch's estate from the normal 40% inheritance tax if it goes to the crown's successor, in this case, Charles. So basically, the Queen's assets won't lose money if Charles is given everything, which is why it's safe to assume the bulk of her fortune went directly to him. That's all we have for you today. Do King Charles's royal pockets shock your eyes wide open? Let us know below. If you'd like to dive into the shocking secrets behind Jake Paul's wealth, check out this video here.